50,000 years ago, Earth was not just home to one kind of human. We like to think of ourselves as unique, the last survivors of a long evolutionary story. But for most of prehistory, we shared the planet with others, stronger, stockier, and better adapted to the cold. The Neanderthals had lived across Europe and Western Asia for hundreds of thousands of years before we ever arrived. Then one day we met, and that meeting would change the course of history forever. Imagine the world then. Ice sheets stretching across the north, forests filled with mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses, packs of saber-toothed cats prowling the tundra. Into this harsh, frozen landscape came our ancestors, Homo sapiens, traveling out of Africa in small groups. They were explorers, hunters, survivors. They carried with them language, art, and something new: imagination. When they reached Europe, they found that the land was already taken. The Neanderthals were there. For a long time, scientists believed that this meeting ended violently, that we wiped them out. After all, we survived, and they didn't. But the truth is far more complex and far more human. New discoveries show that when our species met, we didn't just fight. We talked, we traded, we loved, and in doing so, we became something new. The first signs of Neanderthal existence were discovered in 1856 in a small valley in Germany called Neanderthal, Neander Valley. At first, scientists didn't know what to make of the strange bones. The skull was thick, the brow heavy, the limbs strong and short. Some claimed it was an ape, others said it was a deformed human. Only later did we realize we had found another species, one of our closest relatives. For over a century, Neanderthals were portrayed as brutes, hairy, stupid cavemen who couldn't compete with modern humans. But archaeology has slowly rewritten that story. We now know that Neanderthals made tools, controlled fire, hunted in organized groups, and cared for their sick and elderly. They buried their dead, sometimes even with flowers. In caves across Europe, they left evidence of art, pigments, carvings, and mysterious symbols painted on walls long before Homo sapiens arrived. They were not the mindless beasts we imagined. They were human in every sense that matters. When our ancestors first encountered them, it must have been a moment of shock. Imagine walking through a cold valley and suddenly seeing a face that looks almost like yours, but not quite. Their eyes would have been deep-set, their bodies powerful. Their voices, if they spoke, would have sounded rougher, lower. They were familiar, yet foreign, like meeting a reflection from another world. At first, there may have been tension. The two species competed for food, shelter, and territory. Resources were scarce, and the ice was advancing. But somewhere, somehow, something else happened. Connection. Evidence suggests that our ancestors and the Neanderthals didn't just fight, they mated. In 2010, a team of geneticists led by Svante Pääbo sequenced the Neanderthal genome for the first time. What they found shocked the world. Almost every person alive today outside of Africa carries Neanderthal DNA, between 1% and 4%. That means our ancestors and theirs had children together. Their blood runs in our veins. This revelation shattered the idea that they were completely separate from us. It also explained a lot about who we are. Some of the genes we inherited from Neanderthals affect our skin, hair, and even our immune systems. They helped early humans adapt to colder climates and new diseases. But some of those same genes may also make us more vulnerable to allergies and depression today. In a strange way, their legacy still shapes our lives. But what was it like for them, the Neanderthals, when we arrived? Within just a few thousand years of contact, they were gone. The reasons remain one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Some scientists believe climate change played a key role. The Ice Age became harsher, and their isolated populations couldn't recover. Others suggest they were simply absorbed, their small numbers mixing with larger human groups until their distinct identity vanished. Still, there's a darker possibility. Archaeological sites show hints of violence, skulls cracked by blows, bones cut by weapons. It's possible that competition turned deadly, that we pushed them to extinction, one valley at a time. If so, it wouldn't be the first time humans eliminated their rivals. But it's also possible that they were doomed not by our weapons, but by our numbers, by love, not war. Because every time a Neanderthal and a human had a child, that child was more likely to join a growing population of Homo sapiens, carrying forward both bloodlines. Over generations, Neanderthals may have simply disappeared into us, extinction through union. One of the most haunting discoveries comes from a cave in Siberia called Denisova. There, scientists found the remains of a girl who lived around 90,000 years ago. DNA revealed she had a Neanderthal mother and a Denisovan father, two entirely different species of early humans. That means interbreeding between human groups wasn't rare. It was part of our shared story. The boundaries between us and them were never clear. We were all connected. Even our art and culture may have influenced each other. Some of the oldest cave paintings in Europe, once thought to be made by Homo sapiens, are now believed to have been painted by Neanderthals. Red handprints, dots, and abstract shapes, the beginnings of symbolic thought. Maybe we learned from them. Maybe they learned from us. Maybe the line between Neanderthal and modern human was never as sharp as we imagined. When we look at reconstructions of their faces today, gentle eyes, broad noses, strong jaws, they don't look like monsters. They look like people. People we might recognize on the street. People we might have known. The Neanderthals were not failures. They survived through multiple ice ages, adapted to brutal environments, and left behind a legacy that endures in billions of human genomes. Their disappearance is not the story of extinction, but transformation. They didn't vanish. They became part of us, and yet there's something melancholy in their story. They remind us that being human has never been about dominance alone. It's about connection, cooperation, and survival, the same traits that allowed us to live when others died out. But maybe it also came at a cost. We inherited the world, but we lost our siblings in the process. Today, as scientists decode ancient DNA and uncover more fossils, we're rewriting the story of who we are. It is not just the story of Homo sapiens, it is the story of all humanity across species and time. And it's a story that began with an encounter, somewhere in a cold valley, between two people who looked into each other's eyes and didn't see enemies. They saw something familiar. Maybe love, not war, was what truly changed the world. If this story made you rethink what it means to be human, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves uncovering the hidden chapters of our past. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't about what we found, but about who we've always been.